A Spanish-language music giant just put SB19 alongside some of the biggest names in music, and it happened after Lollapalooza was already over. Most artists get one burst of festival coverage before the news cycle moves on. But weeks later, SB19's momentum is still spreading. And now, it's reached one of the biggest Spanish-language music networks in the world. This isn't a report from the US. It isn't from Manila. It isn't even from Japan. This one is coming from Los 40, one of the largest music networks across Spain and Latin America, with an audience in the millions. Today, we're getting into why that matters, what it reveals about where SB19's influence is actually headed, and why this might be one of the biggest signs yet that P-pop is becoming a global conversation. If you want to keep up with every twist in SB19's international run, hit subscribe on Vintra P-pop before we jump in. Let's get into it. 4 weeks now, SB19's Lollapalooza set has kept generating buzz that simply refuses to fade. American outlets covered the debut. Critics praised the performance. Fans flooded social media with reaction after reaction. And just when it looked like that story was winding down, Los 40 added a new chapter, folding SB19's Lollapalooza moment right into its own festival recap. That's not a small detail. Los 40 isn't some random entertainment blog. It's been a dominant force in Spanish-language music media for decades, the kind of outlet that covers global stars and major festivals as a matter of routine. So, when a name like SB19 shows up in that coverage, it raises an obvious question. Is their reach now stretching into one of the largest music markets on Earth? Here's what stood out most in the piece. Los 40 didn't just mention SB19 in passing. It called them a milestone act for P-pop in the United States, framing their Lollapalooza appearance as the very first time the genre had reached that stage at all. That might sound like a simple line, but think about what a moment like that actually represents. Festivals like Lollapalooza have been running for decades, and they've hosted just about every major genre you can name. Yet somehow, a genre this size, with fans this loyal, had never had its moment on that stage. Until now. That absence is exactly what made this appearance so loud. Festivals aren't remembered for who merely showed up. They're remembered for the performances that become historic. And for P-pop fans, this was exactly that. Not just another set on a crowded lineup, but another massive step in putting Filipino music in front of one of the biggest audiences in the world. There's another layer to it too. According to the piece, SB19 didn't treat Lollapalooza as a finish line. They used it as a launch pad, debuting new music in the middle of their set, instead of simply running through a greatest hits show. That's not something festival crowds see from every artist, and it's not something the international press tends to overlook either. It signals a group thinking several steps ahead, not just performing for the moment, but building toward the next one. Look at how the artists who actually break through globally tend to operate. They don't treat a festival slot as the destination. They treat it as leverage. Perform, capture attention, feed that attention into the next release, and let the momentum carry into whatever comes after. SB19 appears to be running that exact playbook. And they're doing it in real time, in front of one of the largest live audiences of their career. Then, there's the part of the story that lives entirely online. The article also highlighted how much conversation SB19 generated during the festival. Not because everyone had the same reach, but because enough people were talking about them to land in that conversation at all, right alongside artists who've been global names for years. And in this industry, that kind of digital noise isn't just noise. Trending moments spark curiosity. Curiosity turns into searches. Searches turn into streams. And streams turn into fans who weren't even paying attention a week earlier. It's a chain reaction. And SB19 just triggered another link in it. The numbers back it up. SB19 landed at number 8 among the most viewed performances across Lollapalooza's Instagram Reels, pulling in 2.1 million views. On Twitter, they came in second for artist mentions during the festival, with 2.5 million posts referencing them. Put that in context. This was a festival packed with some of the most recognized names in music. The competition for attention was brutal. Every artist on that lineup was fighting for the same limited scroll time. The same limited feed space. The same limited attention from millions of people, flooded with content from every stage at once. And still, clips from SB19's set were among the ones people couldn't stop watching and talking about. That doesn't mean they outdrew every headliner on the bill. Nobody's claiming that. But it does mean their performance connected with people who had endless other options and chose to stop on theirs anyway. For a group making its very first Lollapalooza appearance, that's not a small win. That's a signal. So, step back for a second and look at everything stacking up. American media coverage, international music outlets, festival recognition, fan reactions circling the globe, and now, one of the most established Spanish-language music networks on the planet has weighed in too. None of these moments exist by themselves. Each one feeds the next. Each article puts SB19 in front of a slightly different audience. Each feature becomes someone's very first introduction to Filipino music, and to a genre most of the world is still just discovering. That's how real international momentum gets built. Not through a single viral clip, but through this exact pattern. Steady, overlapping visibility across countries that don't usually cover the same artists at the same time. And Spain and Latin America aren't a side note in that picture. Spanish is one of the most widely spoken languages on Earth, and music from that part of the world regularly tops global charts. Any real foothold there opens doors that simply didn't exist before. Whether that turns into collaborations, festival slots, interviews, or simply more listeners discovering SB19 for the very first time, the visibility alone changes what's possible next. There's also a bigger picture worth pausing on here. P-pop itself is still a relatively young name in the global music conversation. And for most of its history, breaking outside Southeast Asia felt like a distant goal rather than something happening in real time. Moments like this one are exactly how that changes. Not through a single, explosive breakthrough, but through outlets in completely different corners of the world deciding, on their own, that this is a story worth telling their audience. For the fans who've followed this group since the early days, this probably lands differently than just another headline. They watched the uphill climb. The years most people weren't paying attention. The shows before the sold-out ones. And now, they're watching platforms with decades of credibility acknowledge what they always believed was there. But it's worth staying grounded too. One feature doesn't rewrite a career overnight. Growth like this happens in layers. One performance, one article, one new listener at a time. Every piece adds to something bigger, and SB19's story isn't defined by any single moment. It's defined by how many of these moments keep stacking up. Which brings us back to where we started. This isn't really about one Spanish-language outlet putting SB19 in a recap. It's about what that recap represents. A group whose story keeps crossing borders nobody expected it to reach, one unexpected headline at a time. So, what happens from here? Does this open the door for more European coverage down the line? Does it put SB19 on the radar of Latin American listeners who've never heard of P-pop until this exact moment? Does it push more festival bookers to start looking at Southeast Asia the way they already look at Seoul or Tokyo? Nobody can answer those questions yet. But the pattern so far suggests SB19 isn't waiting around for the answer. They're out there creating it, one unexpected market at a time. So, here's the real question for you. Is this the start of a much bigger wave across Spain and Latin America, or just one more marker on a road that's already stretching further than anyone predicted? Drop your take in the comments. If you're following every step of SB19's international rise, make sure you're subscribed to Venture P-pop so you don't miss what comes next. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.